we have the dermis, the basal lamina, and the epidermis. To see the epidermis clearer now, the dermis itself is made up of two layers, that is the papillary layer and the reticular layer. Here we can also see an important accessory structure, that is the sweat glands. The basal lamina can be clearly seen too. Stratum basilae, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum lucidum, and stratum corneum. There's also a surface layer with dead skin cells. We can observe the presence of a melanocyte. And in increased magnification, the melanocytes are much more obvious and they look darker than the rest of the skin. Now, we can see here up close what the melanocyte looks like. The melanocyte contains a pigment called melanin, and it serves to protect our skin against ultraviolet radiation.
The white body skin, it is basically contains less melanins. So the more the production of melanin, the darker the skin looks. Skin pigmentations are basically biologically adapted and regulates the penetration of ultraviolet radiation. And for the human scalp transverse hair follicle, this is how it looks in 40x. And they have epidermis, hair follicles, and fat tissue. They have sweat glands, which produces sweat, hair follicles, and the epidermis, sebaceous gland, and hair follicles. And this sebaceous gland basically produces sebum, and there has hair bulbs, hair root, and dermopapilla. So dermopapilla is basically regenerate the cycling portion of the hair follicle and generate their hair shaft. So that's basically the function of dermopapilla. And they also have hair bubble in this, and this is how the structure looks in 400 magnification, and this one is in 100 magnification, and this one is in 40 magnification.
In the slide of combat bone at 40 times, the central canal that is located at the middle of the ostium can be seen. At 100 times, the ostium or Hyaline system, which is the basic unit of the skeletal bones, can be seen. The central canal contains the blood vessels that supply the ostium. At 400 times, the ostium can be clearly seen, which consists of the channels called canaliculi, central canal, lacunae, which encase the osteocytes, and also the matrix layers called lamellae. This is a slide of spongy bone or trabecular bone at 40 times in an open network of struts and plates. At 100 times, the trabeculae and canaliculi opening can be seen. At 400 times, the bone cell osteocyte can be seen. For the slide of hyaline cartilage at 40 times, the lacuna, matrix, and perichondrium, which is a layer of dense irregular connective tissue, can be seen. At 100 times, the matrix can also be seen. The chondrocytes, which are the cartilage cells, can be seen in spaces called lacunae. At 400 times, the translucent matrix and nucleus of the chondrocytes in the lacunae can be seen.
The human skull consists of frontal part and parietal, which is this part, and occipital, the lower back. And we also have temporal here, phenoid, which is in front of temporal part. Maxilla is the upper jawbone. Mandible, which is a lower jawbone. Zygomatic bone, and this is the zygomatic arc. And here near the earlobe we have external auditory meatus, and this is mastoid process. Temporomandibular joint. This is the orbit, the cavity that holds the eye. Supraorbital margin above that one. And this is a nasal bone. The hyoid bone carries the weight of our tongue.
The line right here, called coronal suture, between the frontal bone and the parietal bone. Well, this middle line is called sagittal suture, which divides the left and right parietal bone. And the small line behind here, lambdoid suture, which divides the occipital bone and the parietal bone. The squamous suture, which divides the temporal bone right here with the parietal bone.
So the spine is divided into 4 parts. So from bones 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's called the cervical. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's called thoracic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is lumbar. And this huge piece of bone here, which is actually 5 bones joined together, is called the sacral. So here's a part of the column from the lumbar. It's divided into 4 parts. This top part here is the spinous process. These 2 wings are the transverse process. This flat part here is the vertebrate body. And this little cavity, this hole here, is called the vertebral foramen. This foramen here is where the spinal cord goes through.
Of the ribs and also the sternum. Okay. The sternum consists of the manubrium, while the middle part is called the body, and the last part is the xiphoid process. The rib number 1 to rib number 7 are called true ribs, while ribs number 8 to number 12 behind here is called false rib. Rib number 11 and 12 are called floating ribs. Human pelvic girdle consists of 2 bones, which is the clavicle and the scapula. The clavicle is attached to the manubrium of the sternum and to the acromion of the scapula. The scapula right here is also attached to the round head of the humerus at the glenoid cavity right here. The clavicles, which is these 2, they will change their position when we move our shoulder.
So this is the humerus, and you can see here, this is the olecranon fossa. This is the radius, and this is the radial tuberosity. This is the styloid process, radial styloid process. In the ulna, so here you can see, this is the olecranon of the ulna. And then here, if you move at the back, you see that here, okay, this is the ulnar styloid process. Okay, so each hand, it consists of 3 groups. So here is the carpa, here is the metacarpa, the phalanges. So for the thumb, we only have the proximal phalanx and also the distal phalanx, whereby from 2nd to 5th, proximal phalanx, middle phalanx, and also the distal phalanx.
The sacrum and this coccyx, and all of this kind of form like the bowl-shaped pelvis. So this is a singular hip bone, and this is the iliac crest. This is the ilium. This is the acetabulum. The ischial tuberosity is here. This hole here is the obturator foramen, and this part here is the pubis. And it actually connects here, as you can see, with the pubic symphysis. So next up would be the femur. So this is the articular surface of the head, this thing. This is the fovea for the ligament, and this is actually the patella. The next thing we have is the tibia. So this is the tibia tuberosity. This is the medial tibial condyle. But then you turn it around here, and this is the medial malleolus. So the next thing is the fibula, and then down here is actually the lateral malleolus of the fibula. Only the smooth surface of the trochlea of the talus actually is connected to the tibia and fibula. This calcaneus is the largest bone of the tarsals, and its main purpose is to help support the body weight and provide attachment for all the muscles that move the foot. There are 5 metatarsal bones. This is the base of it, and this is the head of it, and this is obviously the shaft. And then moving on to the phalanges, they have a proximal phalange, a middle phalange, and a distal phalange. In terms of the pectoral, they don't have a middle phalange, it's just the distal and the proximal.